Hey there, and welcome to exercise number 99. If you want to solve this one on your own, then click on the link in the description. If not, keep watching and we're going to solve it together. In this one, we need to write a function named throttle that receives one parameter. Another function we're going to call callback. Now, the throttle function should return a new function. Let's name it throttledCallback. That will behave exactly like callback, but it will only allow us to call it again if less than 1000 milliseconds have passed since the last invocation. This means that additional calls will be ignored. Below we have an example, so let's look at that. I have here a simple print_sum function that receives two parameters, adds them together and console logs the result. And then below I have a throttled print_sum, which I create by calling throttle and passing the print_sum function. So this is the callback I'm talking about in the description. Below I call throttled print_sum with 1 and 2, and this should print 3. Then I call throttled print_sum with 11 and 12, and this should do nothing because 1000 milliseconds didn't pass since the last invocation. And same with throttled print_sum with 100 and 200, right? This one shouldn't do anything because no more than 1000 milliseconds have passed. Now, what I described here is also written below in the markdown. So you can see that only the number 3 should be printed to the console. That's because the function is throttled, so it only runs once every 1000 milliseconds. The first time we call it, the function runs, but then the second and third calls are ignored because they happen sooner than 1000 milliseconds after the first call. Now that we've read the description, let's go here into the right side, into the code area, and start solving the function. Now let's create first the throttledCallback, which is going to be a function, right, which we're going to return according to the description. Now this function should behave exactly like callback, so I'm going to do here rest syntax to get the params, and then I'm going to return callback, and I'm going to spread the params back into the callback. So now we have this function, throttle callback, that behaves exactly like callback, right? We didn't do anything new so far. And I can copy the code from the left side, put it here, and we should see 3, 23, and 300. Okay, this is correct. Now we need to implement the part with the 1000 milliseconds that we need to wait. So we somehow need to know, hey, can I run this function, or I cannot run it because not 1000 milliseconds have passed since last time, and so on. So I'm going to have here to create a variable called letCanIRunTheCallback, which initially is going to be true. And here we're going to do if can I run the callback, then I'm going to do this, right? Otherwise, I'm not going to do anything. Now, of course, nothing changes because I never make this one false, but we're going to need to make it false when we call it. And then after 1000 milliseconds, we're going to need to make it true. So we're going to need to use a set timeout. So I'm going to do here, can I run the callback is going to be false. And then I'm going to set timeout. And I'm going to put 1000 here, right? Exactly like the description. And I'm going to say, can I run the callback becomes true. And you can see that now we only have one number printed in the console. The other invocations have been ignored. Because basically what we say is, okay, when I'm going to run this function, I'm going to make this variable false, and then I'm going to add the timeout that makes it true after 1 second. And any other invocation inside this second, this one is going to be false, and they're not going to run. And to test this, let's do here a set timeout. And let's do it 1100, and let's do throttled print_sum of 11 and 12. And we should be able to see after a second 23. Okay, that works. Now if I'm going to copy this one here, it shouldn't work the second time because again, between those two, 1000 milliseconds didn't pass. So that's correct. But then I can do, let's say, this one that's going to be after 2100. So I should be able to see, okay, yeah, because it's exactly 1 second. Let's do 2150. Of course, the tests are not like super exact. And yeah, you can see it here, it runs 2 times. So this one runs, then those two run immediately, they don't run. Then after 1 second and 100 milliseconds, this one runs, this one doesn't. And then after 2 seconds, and I mean, this time here, this one runs and this one doesn't. So this looks good. Now we can test our solution. And voila, it works. Cheers and see you in the next one.